All right, hey, welcome to Ask EJ. This is episode 38. So let's get started. All right, question number one comes from California. What up, commie California? This is from Alan in Modesto. He says, "Hey EJ, say someone is kicking in your front door. You grab your 870 and meet them at the door only to see that they have a gun and your 870 jammed. What would you do next?" Uh, Alan, I'd probably make his face my new front sight post on that 870. Probably chip his tooth pretty good. Uh, but that's just me. You just got to get violent with it. I mean, at that point, it's just like if your gun goes bang and you didn't bring an extra magazine, it just becomes a blunt object and batter up. You know, I'd Babe Ruth his rear right there in the door frame. I mean, you're not left with a whole lot of options. But I'd be interested to see why that 870 jammed. So maybe just rushing or something. Uh, but in all essence, when you have no more bullets, then it becomes a blunt instrument. So that's what happens. But you asked what would I do? Yeah, he's kicking in my front door and he's got a smoke wagon in his hand. Yeah, batter up. Try to hit it out of the park. All right. Question number two comes from Waterford, Michigan. Jordan says, "My wife and I are new to the AR world. We just purchased the M&P 15. Hey, good choice. And we would like to get a red dot. Another good choice. This is a starter rifle for us and will be used for practice at the range and home defense. Without breaking the bank, $200 to $350 ish. What would you suggest? We've been looking at the Vortex and Holosun brands." Okay, Jordan, first of all, I don't know a whole lot about the Holosun brands, so maybe somebody else does. I just don't know about them. Vortex, not a bad little red dot for you to get. I mean, I think it's somewhere in that price range for you, if that's what you wanted to do. Um, it all just comes down to uh, uh, how resistant they are to how much you can beat them up. So if you're gonna train hard with it and beat the crap out of it, then yeah, you probably need to look at something a little bit more resilient, like that aim point, or even an EOTech or something like that. But I mean, a Vortex should hold up for what you're going to be doing. I mean, I'd get the 2 MOA one, and then uh, make sure that since it's going to be for you and Mama, when you put that red dot on, then she needs to shoulder the rifle, however, wherever that buttstock's going to be, and then we need to get the right eye relief for her, and then you need to be able to make sure that that buttstock will go to where you want it to go, and it's the right eye relief for you. And then we want to make sure that if we're going to do a whole lot of adjusting, that we're doing it on the buttstock, so we don't have to move that optic. Okay, but that's one thing. That's one thing to consider. Like when couples use, red dots or even scopes on rifles, and it happens a lot. Or brothers share and that kind of stuff. We don't ever do the optic or the scope, depending on what we're using, uh, for the right eye relief. For both of them, it just seems like we put it on there and like, hey, you just have to adjust yourself to the gun. Well, you have an opportunity here to make sure that it's in the right spot for her. If she's running the buttstock in a little bit, or you're having, she's at second position on the buttstock and you're at 4, then maybe you guys can adjust the buttstock and keep the optic in the same, and that way you keep the same eye relief on it. It's just something to consider. Most people don't even think about it, but I would look at that. Yeah, run that Vortex, man. Run it and break it, and then send it back to them and tell them how you broke it. That'd be cool. Yeah, I like breaking people's gear and then telling them how I broke it. Uh, it also helps them improve their quality control. So, uh, not a bad question out of Michigan. All right, question number 3 comes from Springfield, Missouri. Jason says you're flying home with your gun. Oh, hell. And you have a layover in Chicago. Your flight is canceled due to weather. Now you're stuck with your carry-on and a gun that isn't legal. Sure, he meant legal in Chicago. How do you board your new flight? Or do you rent a car and flee for free America? Okay. So let's just say, Jason, for all rights and purposes, that you know your flight is canceled. It is like 11:30 at night there in O'Hare, and they're like, hey, we'll put you up in a hotel or whatever, and you'll get out on the 7 o'clock flight in the morning. And so you got to go down and get all your bags and whatever. If they made you go get your bags, hopefully they would just transfer everything over to the next flight. That's typically what happens. But I think I know where you're going with this question, so let's just kind of put it in some context. For some reason, you got to take possession of your stuff and recheck in. Well, I would tell you that first and foremost, you do not want to leave that airport with that gun. You are in enemy territory. You are behind enemy lines at that point in Chicago. I wouldn't leave. I would try to check it in for the next flight. Like, I would take it from the carousel if that's where they made me get my stuff, and go right back up to the ticketing counter and check back in. Yeah. And then if I couldn't check in, man, I'd probably I wouldn't leave that airport. I would not walk out that airport with that gun. So I'd probably just sleep there and hope airport security doesn't get too stupid with me. But you should be pretty good inside the airport, because you could show where you were transferring in and you could plead your case pretty well. But if you left the airport, you're probably going to get locked up, and then you got to get a lawyer involved and all that other stuff. So yeah, that sucks. And don't take flights that have to go through communist countries. Yeah, like Illinois. I know it's a state. I just said it was a country. Don't worry about it. Some guys are, it's not a country, it's a state. Yeah, I know. Okay. I took 4th grade. Maybe public education, but I took 4th grade. Yeah, I would try not to avoid those at all possible. I mean, stuff happens. You get rerouted and weather and whatever. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Just don't leave the airport. And you've got a higher probability of being okay. Now, I'm no lawyer, but I would tell you for sure you got a better chance there at the airport. Just try to check back in. Check it back in. If not, you're sleeping with it in an uncomfortable chair right outside the closed Starbucks. That's what you'll be doing. All right. Last 3 good questions. Not bad. All right, you got to keep some more questions coming in.